Welcome to the Colorado State Employee Assistance Program podcast, focused on personal well-being. We ask leaders across Colorado state government how they manage their own emotional well-being and mental health. My name is Natalie Newman, and I'm an EAP specialist with the Colorado State Employee Assistance Program, or CSEAP. We offer mental health counseling, leader consultation, critical incidents response, mediation, and webinar and facilitation services. You can find more information at cseap.colorado.gov. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Today we are speaking with Chelsea Winegar. Chelsea is the director of the Center for Organizational Effectiveness, so welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and Chelsea, in her role, has been collaborating with other departments and leading her team to deepen the professional capacities of all state of Colorado employees. With all of the many things that I'm sure you do, what are some of the favorite things that you do in your role?
Great question, and I just want to say thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Some of my favorite things in this role, I've been in this position almost 6 months, and I just get to work with so many fabulous people, both internally and externally across the state. My team is fabulous. My division is fabulous. I'm getting to build relationships with other parts of DHR, such as the equity office and labor relations. And there's just so many ways we can work better together, as well as CSEAP. We're gonna get to do some work with the folks here too, which is really exciting. Building relationships is something that's really important to me. And so getting to, I think, lean into that every day is one of my favorite things.
What's one of your biggest challenges in your role?
I think it's probably a self-inflicted challenge, to be honest. It's just wanting to be able to have the knowledge to support my team and their programs effectively. And there's a learning curve there. And so I just have to give myself grace and know that I'm gaining knowledge as I work towards things. But that doesn't mean there aren't moments where I'm like, oh, I should have known that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that kind of links into where I wanted to jump next of like, how do you take care of yourself in times where you're like, oh, things have just been really challenging lately? And I hear just some of the phrases that you say that I'm like, oh yeah, I've repeated those to clients before, of like, give yourself grace, or, you know.
Yeah, I would say like wellness and kind of like making sure that I'm taking my care of my mental health was something that I started to think about later on in life. I suffered from pretty bad postpartum depression after my second child. And so I think going through that and working through that really brought to light that sense of needing to be well for myself first and then for others around me. And so that's something I still am working on today. I think well-being is like a daily activity almost, like, because I have to check in daily just to be like, okay, cool, today's going to be a great day. Let's get all the things done. And then there are other days where it's like, all right, here we go. We're going to get through it and it's going to be okay. So like really trying to listen to myself and I think what is happening around me. And I think it all goes back to being kind and compassionate.
I also love that thought of, right, it's not a one and done sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It's like an ongoing thing. You can't just like, oh, yep, I self-cared and I'm good forever, you know?
Yes, and I think learning too, however we want to categorize it, I grew up in the space of like, you don't call out sick, you work hard to play hard, you just kind of push through. And looking at those who are not necessarily in my age group and how they take care of themselves is really inspiring, because it's okay if you're not feeling well, you have sick time. Like, you use it where you need to make sure, again, that you're okay, because you're going to come back and be more productive. I think too, I found an amazing therapist for the past couple of years who has just been really awesome in helping to process just whatever needs to be processed. And I think everybody should have a therapist. So just going to put that out there.
I'm curious how you impart some of this wisdom onto your team and kind of encourage them to take the time that they need to, I don't know, transition from meeting to meeting or just day to day, or like things are hard and it's okay that we might need a break.
Mm-hmm. Being my authentic self and potentially being vulnerable in places where it's okay to be vulnerable, right? Like, and really trying to listen to what they are saying and like be aware of what they are saying so that I can ask better questions. So if they're not feeling well, if something has really happened, they have to take the time for themselves. Like, and I've told, they know family will always come first. So if something is going on, family is first. We will make it work. We will work together. And I think it's helped us to build a culture around, I think, self-care and hopefully expressing ourselves when we are frustrated.
Yeah. Well, and I think even just modeling how you have different aspects and parts of yourself and different identities. Like you shared that you're a mom.
Yes, I think it's really important, and I want to create that space for them to show up as their authentic selves. I think I can better serve them that way if I just have a deeper understanding of who they are and what motivates them, but also like what are they excited about? Like I get really excited to hear about, their weekend plans and those pieces, and it's awesome when you begin to have like the inside jokes, if you will, for your team and work through, I think, some of the conflict and challenges because we're not always going to agree, but we always have the best intentions, and that's motivating.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, what do you do on days where you may not have a lot of time for self-care or balance?
That is a tough question. And I think it changes depending on what's going on. But I've really tried to get better to like listening to myself, listening to like what I need. If I can get in and just do like a 15-minute walk, or I really can't stand the heat, so I try and stay inside, like a 15-minute like rowing session or something like that, where it's like, it's okay. Or even if I'm like cooking lunch for the kids because it's summertime, like, I don't know, doing some stretches, like while just trying to be present in the moment and listening to my body, but also communicating more effectively with my husband around my needs and saying like, okay, I know we're getting close to bedtime, but I've got to go disappear for 10 minutes in our room and just kind of chill out, listen to a meditation. I love a good book on tape. I guess tapes are, ooh, I just dated
Audiobook?
myself right there. An audiobook, if you will.
Are you able to incorporate those strategies when you're working too? Or how does it differ?
I think the ultimate goal is to create boundaries and create processes and like have the ability to go for a walk if I can, and in between meetings, or even start to take like walking meetings where maybe it's a one-on-one and we are on our phones, but we're walking around the park in our respective places. I think it's a work in progress.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think one of the things you mentioned about like the communication and how just that's right. Communication isn't just good in your personal relationships, but your professional relationships. And I can see how that could also transfer of just letting people know, hey, this is what's going on, or like, hey, we're going to start this meeting a little bit later today, or whatever.
It is interesting, kind of that team building aspect. Because I think as leaders, right, we want to show up, we want to be strong all the time, we want to be the protectors of our team. But even just yesterday, I was in a one-on-one with one of my team members, and they're like, yeah, I think you were a little stressed. And I was like, did I say I was stressed? What do you mean? No. And they're like, oh, you kind of made a couple comments and I put it together, and I was like, you're so smart. But, and so I think it's them acknowledging that it's okay for me to be stressed. But, right, how we handle it with like the self-care and those pieces is where we can move through some of the stress. And I know they support me as much as I hopefully support them. Like, we're humans first. So I think that open communication is really important.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it also makes so much sense that someone in the center of organizational effectiveness was able to be like, hey, something's off. Like, I'm able to use some emotional intelligence to kind of key in on that.
It is really nice to have people around me who do have that level of emotional intelligence and then don't judge me if like I'm not 100% all the time.
What resources or things do you do regularly to support your mental health?
Something that works within the schedule. I love to take my little puppy for a walk. She's 5, but she's still my puppy.
5 months or 5 years?
5 years. But I love kind of spending time with her and going out for a walk. She's a good motivator because it's always kind of out, not in front of the computer, where I also feel the most creative. I like audiobooks, not books on tape. And I do like to rest. I like to rest. Yeah. So that's my routine at the end of the day, is kind of sneak upstairs for like 10 minutes and just kind of reflect. I feel like it sounds so cheesy.
No, but that's so important. It reminds me, like there are accounts out there, like I think of like the Nap Ministry, that really stress the importance of sleep. And I think that account is on Instagram. I'm not sure what other ones there are, but I have no affiliation with them, but a resource to share that nap and sleep are really important things for us as humans.
One thing that I'm continually trying to get better at is just sleeping. But recognizing, like, I will go up to bed and try and go to bed a little bit earlier so that my body can rest in that way too.
Well, what does self-care look like at its worst for you? Like when you're really struggling, things are hard, lots of needs, work-wise, personally, kids, whatnot.
I think sometimes that's the first thing to go out the window, to be honest, depending on where the challenges are coming from. The kids are going to come first. My husband's going to come first. Work is going to come first, especially like my team members. Right now, it's just taking a moment to pause and see what the actual stressor is, and then either taking a few minutes to like think through it, or put it to the side and walk away so that I can better solve the problem when I come back.
Yeah. And I think that's a common response of like, right? Like self-care when I'm stressed, like that often is the first time to go. And so with that, like how do you bring that back in of like, oh, right. Like
I think it goes back to like, it's not a guilt, but it's like a regret if I don't do something. Like at the end of the day, and it's like you kind of do that reflection and it's like, oh man, a walk would have been really good. Acknowledging it and thinking through like what could I have done will hopefully build up my capacity like in the moment to say, okay, like take that walk. It's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking of, myself personally, just like when my mom comes and visits and I don't go to the gym as often, and then I snap at her and then it's like, oh, I didn't mean those things that I said. And I really, should prioritize making it to the gym even when she is here or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. I think that prioritization is key. Thinking through, I'm going to build that habit.
Yeah. Well, and I think, right, priorities shift, and when people come in town to visit or a big deadline comes up or with other people's schedules and whatnot, things shift.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are constantly changing, but we have to just kind of be able to pivot in those ways.
Well, especially with the impact that your center has on so many departments and divisions, like what are things that you might impart to other managers or supervisors and how to help others incorporate strategies to take care of their own wellness?
The first thing I would do is hopefully they would find a buddy to be able to talk through, kind of find the space of like, not a space where it's like negative venting, but like, hey, I need a peer. As much as I love relationship building and my team is so incredibly supportive, the role itself is pretty lonely. I think being a manager, being a director, being like executive director can probably be pretty lonely. And so I am lucky enough that I have peers that I can reach out to and just say, oh man, I'm super stressed. Help me think through this. Like, how can I interpret this so I can have the best possible outcome? I think having that sounding board is really, really important. So I would highly encourage that peer connection among managers, because we are not alone. People are probably going through some of the same things. So it's nice to have that community to talk through some of that stuff.
Absolutely. Well, I so appreciate you talking a little bit about your self-care and what that looks like, and, with some of the things that you do to encourage others to incorporate more self-care within their day. So, anything else that you want to add or that you missed or that you're like, "Oh, wait, I really wanted to talk about this."
No, I don't think so. I think, I've been at the state for a little over 4 years, and it's so wonderful the amazing people that do the work here. The direct care employees, the supervisors, the highway public safety people. Like, it is just so cool, all the amazing work that is done. And so I hope people do take the time to think through their self-care, because we need them.
On this podcast, we focus on mental health and well-being. If you are an employee of a State of Colorado agency or Colorado higher education public university or college, you are eligible for the Colorado State Employee Assistance Program services. You can visit CSEAP.colorado.gov for more information or schedule an appointment by calling 303-866-4314. Thanks for listening.